And then the whole collection of Inspirations magazine right up to 125.
Two actually are from photos. So you have your photo and you have to put it in.
Wouldn't Joan look lovely in that?
Oh, so nice.
It's probably about 10 hours. So that's combining smocking and embroidery.
Yeah.
So cable stitch, enables me to, and I can put it in a pillowcase and just put it away. And
I see, yeah, same design, different stitches.
Yeah. So, this is all different.
And then maybe the first question we wanted to ask is how you got started in embroidery, and obviously you've got a lot of experience now, but there was a point where you had your first project and your first stitch. Where did that all come about?
Okay, a long time ago. I probably started when I was young with my mum, as a lot of people do. So 'cause I grew up on a farm, and I think you get a lot of free time, and Mum was always into sewing and craft, and she'd always try something. So she knitted, she quilted, she did a little bit of embroidery, and my sister and she also did a lot of professional dressmaking, which my sister ended up doing. And I never took to the sewing machine, and I thought the sewing machine, I was too busy outdoors doing stuff and, playing sport and things like that. And it wasn't until I had my first son and I was stuck at home because he was going to come prematurely, and I was told to go home and do nothing. And so I pulled out tapestries and cross stitches and did a lot of that and loved it. And so when Nick was born, I then decided to do something else. I sort of thought I'd done that, and he was also sleeping really well. So my husband looked after him, and Country Bumpkin, which is a well-known embroidery needlework store which had magazines and things. I went down there and did classes at night while my husband looked after Nick. And then eventually I offered my services just to do some general embroidery on bibs and booties and things like that. And during that process, they said to me, Di, can you read a pattern? Can you use a sewing machine? And of course I went, yeah, sure. And they said, well, we need someone to do some commission orders and some sewing for us and things like that. And that was the beginning, really, because they said, well, can you smock? And I said, no, but they taught me to smock. They taught me to do heirloom sewing, and I just loved it, absolutely loved it. So I went on from there and I got commission orders. So I would do one after the other while I had my children. So I had 3 children, 3 boys. So consequently I didn't sew for them because they were rough and tumble boys and out climbing trees and all that sort of thing. And I really loved making the christening gowns because they were pretty, they had lace, they were one-offs, and I had this magnificent opportunity to be creative as well, because sometimes the orders would say, oh, it's up to you, Di. And so I would design something to go on the front, and we'd go through the process of them either liking it or not liking it and that sort of thing. And I loved all of that. So I actually worked for Country Bumpkin for quite a while, for almost 9 years. And after I had my 3rd child, I started a little business of my own, which was probably a little bit silly, having 3 boys and working for Country Bumpkin. And that didn't last very long because I just couldn't fit it in. But I also took on teaching at night because I'm an ex-school teacher. I used those skills to teach adults at night while my husband stayed home and looked after the children, sort of thing. So that was really, really good, a great opportunity, and I loved that as well. And then eventually, by the time my youngest went to school, I totally burnt out. I'd had 9 years of raising 3 young children and doing all of this, and I just didn't want to touch a needle anymore. I just wanted to have a break, and I also felt that the kids needed me more. So I left it all behind, stopped, and didn't touch a needle for 5 years. And in that time, I discovered golf. And that filled that gap of doing a bit of fitness, getting outdoors, meeting new people, all of that sort of thing. And also it's another addictive thing, which is, as you can tell, is probably part of my personality. After about 5 years of working with the kids and doing stuff, I started to feel the need to get creative again. So I went back to Country Bumpkin and said, look, I'm available now. And the lovely, lovely lady behind the counter said, Di, if you do this, you do one thing at a time only. And I went, okay. So she was lovely, Kathy her name was, and she was like a mentor to me. She just basically kept me on the straight and narrow and encouraged me and fed, and I'm so blessed to have her do that for me, because it enabled me just to stop and just go slowly this time and enjoy it this time, rather than putting the pressure on myself all the time. So I started doing that, and then Country Bumpkin moved from Kensington Road to Norwood to Unley Road and then to South Road. And by the time I got to South Road, there wasn't as much work, but I just sort of was still busy with my kids. And then eventually it closed its doors, and which was a little bit sad. But at the same time, out of that came Create and Stitch, which is where I work now, and Inspirations magazine is Inspiration Studios, so they've kept the magazine going. So it's really worked out quite well, and so I do a bit for both. I design for their magazines still now, and I work at Create and Stitch and teach at Create and Stitch. So I'm still heavily involved with the sort of, the new companies as such, and that's given me a great outlet to follow my teaching and my designing. So those side of things. So I don't do as commission orders as much now. And part of that reason is, as life is and it takes you on a journey, I ended up thinking, maybe I should do something for myself, because I've been doing everything for everybody else and I hadn't really had a chance to become, just do something I like and everything else. And I joined the Embroiderers Guild here in South Australia. And by joining there, it opened a whole new world, because I stepped away from Country Bumpkin with beautiful grub roses and christening gowns and lace and all of that thing into a world of traditional embroideries, and learning about traditional embroideries and learning about Italian reticella, learning about Norwegian hardanger, learning about German schwarm, black work, things that I'd never ever, I knew about, but I'd never ever dabbled in. And so by going there, I went on a whole new journey and discovered all this wealth of knowledge, of history and experienced embroiderers. These are ladies in their 60s, 70s, 80s who had embroidered all their life, and their knowledge, they were like walking encyclopedias. It was fantastic, and I couldn't get enough of it. Once again, I had to say to myself, enough, slow down, die, just go slowly. But through that, I discovered the Royal School of Needlework, which is in London at Hampton Court. And I went on a holiday with my husband, and I did a class, and of course walked away from that class and went, right, I've got to do their certificate and maybe their diploma if that happens, but I'll take my time because it's in London, not here in Australia. So I enrolled in the first one, which was Jacobean crewelwork for the certificate course, and went over for 2 weeks and did an intensive. Loved it. Came home and said, right, I'm doing another one. And then I did and then life started, and I did the next subject, and I did go over for the second subject, but the third subject I never got to do over there because COVID struck. And because COVID struck, we were all in our houses and things like that. And myself and a couple of other ladies got together and we wrote to the Royal School of Needlework and said, can we start an online course? Can we do it from home? And there was a lovely lady, Angela Bishop from the Royal School of Needlework, who said, yes, I'm an Aussie, I'll help them out. And so during COVID, the four of us got together online for a whole 3 weeks and nutted out a program of how to get it going and how to make it work. And I did my third subject during that time. Mm-hmm. And then we loved it so much that we said, can we just keep going? Mm-hmm. And so we kept going from then on. And now they have 3 different time zones in the world, and classes going nearly every day, I think. Don't quote me on that, but nearly every day. But so they've got an American time zone, they've got a European time zone, and they've got an Australia-Asia time zone. Wow. And I was part of the Australia-Asia time zone.
And that all came from when, COVID time, when they had to...
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's developed from there.
Wow.
And so because that we'd already been part of that, I just kept going with my next subject. So I finished my 4 certificate course subjects, which then led on the diploma. Mm-hmm. And so I had another 6 subjects to do after that. And I did another 3 online, and then I went to back to England and did another one there. And then I did my 10th. Well, I did my 9th over there, and then I did my 10th back online again, and finished. And it took me 6 years. But I've finished it, and that's with COVID in the middle, sort of thing. So the online learning was valuable. I loved it. I absolutely loved it, and I think it's doing quite well with the school too. So, but I've finished that now, diploma, and that was last year. So now who knows what's going to happen.
Yeah, wow. So the diploma that's all, they don't offer beyond?
Well, they offer an advanced diploma.
Okay.
And you can go on and do other subjects as
Yep.
well. So I can go on and do advanced white work or advanced stump work or advanced tassel making and things like that. But I feel that not sure whether I want to go down on that journey. I think I now need to sit back and think about where I want to take my personal embroidery and my journey. And I'm actually very interested in doing our advanced certificate course at our Embroiderers Guild. They have a 4-level certificate course, and because I've done the diploma, I can jump to the advanced and study a particular area or a particular technique or a particular style of some sort. But there's certain requirements, and it's like doing your master's basically. And that's got to be a big investment, sort of thing. So, and at the moment, I really love needle lace, and that's where I'm at the moment with needle lace, and not contemporary needle lace so much, more the traditional needle laces that come from different countries, or especially European. There's the Italian needle lace I love particularly, but it does go into other countries as well. So I have to choose a topic and stick to that topic, which is, I don't know, not going to be easy, I don't think.
Yeah. So is this kind of the needle lace here?
Yeah.
Wow.
So these are from different countries. Needle lace is basically lace in the air sort of thing. But if there's Italian needle lace has got 2 particular styles. One's inside the fabric.
Okay.
And one's out with no fabric. So you can design it on a template with no fabric and using foundation stitches, or you can cut away areas of fabric and put the needle lace in. Yeah. So Italian reticello or reticello is inside your fabric, and Amelia R's, which is that bottom bit there, which was done on a template and then attached to the fabric afterwards.
Wow.
As you can see, if you go across to these ones here, they are from Greece. These are Greek cut work, Greek lefkara lace or lefkaritiko, and it's a particular picot and a particular style that they have from Greece. So that one is another area you could go into, and there's a bookmark that matches.
Is there somewhere where that originated, and then, or does they have their own version of it?
Well, it's interesting you say that,
somewhere?
because they do cross parts, in different areas. So you see similarity of stitches between countries. So it's hard to tell where it actually all originated from. Because we don't have the records, and it's when books were published is probably, or you learnt it from your grandma or something like that when they first became documented or known about. But I suppose it's just picking up a piece of thread and putting into needle, because embroidery is a threaded needle. All right, so it can be on your machine because it's threaded, and it can be in your hand with threaded. Bobbin lace doesn't really come under embroidery as such because it's not a threaded needle.
Right.
Okay, so that's something to think about when you think, what is embroidery? But it's to do with...
it's so diverse, I guess, then. Like a threaded needle, you can make so many different things with that.
That's right. And keeping up, people like doing, horsehair, they make needle lace, in some countries they've got historic pieces with horsehair, things like that.
Yeah.
So it's travelled. The motifs have travelled. Certain areas have their own little motifs that they love to use. And like Lefkada has its own little picot, which is those little knobbly things. Wow. And they have a particular style of picot on the edge. Italy have a different one again. They have a Venetian picot, they call it. And then Hardanger has a wrapped picot. So, and Hardanger comes from Norway. In the Norwegian region. So there are different types. There's a twisted picot, there's a chain picot, there's other ones as well. But some areas have their own particular style of embroidery, which is unique to them. Lefkada is UNESCO listed in the UNESCO because it's a traditional heritage stitching technique that they've recognised, and it's rare and it's not as well known. I picked it up at the Embroiderers Guild through learning about different things. This one here is Ukrainian.
Oh, wow.
This is Ukrainian white work with the Marushka stitch around the outside, which is common to it is in Russia as well, but it's also in a Marushka area in Ukraine as well.
Wow.
And this is Ukrainian white work, and they're common motifs that they use in Ukraine. But you can see them also in Norwegian work as well.
Right. Is there anything that defines this as, what would you say, was it white work?
Yeah, so there's white work in general because it's white on white, but then it comes into cut work or pulled work.
Yes.
So if you're cutting threads away, it comes under cut work.
Yeah.
But if you're pulling threads together to get a pattern and stitching and pulling, that's pulled work.
What about this type of embroidery do you love the most? Like, what is it about?
Well, probably the Italian stuff, stuff that comes from Italian. And at the moment, I'm really going on that's Italian needle lace. And the motif in that is very symmetrical and everything, and that's a very old design. This is probably 16th century design, 16th, 17th century design, and as of the bottom of that there as well, because it's very symmetrical. But if you look at this one up here, it's got more curved lines and it's not as symmetrical. And then there's another little one here with a flower as well.
Yeah, wow.
That one there as well. So that leads you into more curved lines, and so it's a little bit more modern.
Yes.
Yeah, so going to the 18th, 19th century. So things evolved with their motifs, but originally they were very much symmetrical, and they had the collars and the cuffs and all of that sort of stuff.
So they did it on outfit, like they kind of...
For more outfits, or table linen.
Right.
Table linens.
Yeah.
It was very much a decorative, and it became very popular in Venice, and then the French loved it as well. So a lot of people from Venice in the 1700s went across to France and learnt it in their factories, and then there's a bit of a history and it all changed a bit and things like that, and the French developed their own style and So
how long would it, like a piece, even like this...
take 20 hours, I suppose. 20 to do.
Pieces. Do you just sit in your studio and do it, or do you find it like a relaxing kind of process?
Yeah.
Do you listen to things while you embroider, or what's your kind of process?
So depending on how much pressure I've got and how much time I've got. Yeah. So I can sit in front of the television and do it because it's a lot of wrapping and a lot of buttonhole stitch. Yeah.
Like type of stitching.
Yeah. Or if I've really got a piece that I have to do like for a design, say for Inspiration Magazine or a class or something like that, especially this one here. I did this is a Ukrainian white work class project. So I got asked to design a little something to teach the Mariska stitch. So this is what design. I had to get it done by deadline and all of that sort of thing. So I listen to audiobooks.
Yes, okay, yeah.
So I love audiobooks because you immerse yourself into that going on, but you're also doing your stitching and things like that. So music's okay. I prefer silence or an audiobook. Yeah.
Any type of particular audiobooks that you like listening to, things related to textiles or just...
Total escapism. A story.
A story, yeah. So you can get lost in the story.
And time just goes like that, and I really love that. I can only do that when I'm stitching. I can't do it on the computer because you're doing language
when you've got to think about it.
But I can do it.
But when you're in the flow...
Absolutely. And that takes me, and smocking especially, because that's my other passion that I do as well. I mean, this is only very basic, but I can sit in front of the television and just smock away really, really easily.
The Country Bumpkin stuff, that was all smocking, was it? Or was it a little bit?
It was smocking, dress construction, christening gowns, and a little bit of embroidery on the side. Because sometimes people will come, they see something in a magazine and they say, can we get someone to stitch this? And if I was capable of the stitches or whatever, I would do it. If not, I'd say, no, sorry, that's out of my league. I can't do that. Yeah. So it was a little bit limiting at times, but I did stick mostly to the smocking and the christening gowns and all that sort of thing when I was there.
You mentioned that you had it as a little business or on the side when you were doing the christening gown. So was that made to order?
That was me advertising myself as Die Kirshner Embroidery.
Yeah.
And I thought, maybe I could just do my little business and have my little thing going on the side. And I started having clients coming and oh my gosh, it's really different because when I was at Country Bumpkin, I never dealt with the client. I always got the fabrics, the instructions, everything, and just did that and then handed it back to them and they dealt with the client. And that was a whole new ball game, and I just realised very quickly that was the most, for me, I'd rather be doing than making the decisions and doing all that client sort of stuff. I mean, even though I'm a school teacher and I deal with people all the time, I love that side of things, but I just found that dealing... So the business only lasted for, 18 months really.
And you found that teaching was more a passion.
And I had the skills from when I was teaching because I was a primary school teacher for 7 years before I started. So I had children and things like that. So I found, and that's led me back to where I am now because I think, the classes I teach at Create and Stitch and
Yeah.
at the Guild. And I'm also teaching other guilds in Australia.
Yeah.
And I'm about to go to New Zealand to do my first overseas
That's
teaching trip. So
Yeah.
teaching at the Great Escape in Auckland.
It's amazing how embroidery is taking you all these different places.
Yeah. And I haven't actually got like I said before, I haven't actually got my own business, but I use my social media as my point of call or word of mouth, more than anything else like that, and try and just, I don't want to lose the passion. I don't want to use the love. I love the designing. So if someone asks me to design something for a class, a particular technique or whatever, jump at the opportunity. Not a problem at all. But to have it ongoing all the time and the pressure of sales and all that sort of stuff and things. I'm a one-man band and I love the designing side of things and the teaching. So and helping other people get enthusiastic with embroidery. That's if someone wants to learn embroidery, I love working with people who are beginners too, because you get them in and you try and get them enthusiastic and start with the basics and just follow their journey. And some of the ladies I've been teaching at Create and Stitch I've had for 8 years. And some of the work has just, oh my gosh, one of the ladies just finished a portrait of her dog it looks absolutely gorgeous. She's just done an amazing job. But even, the journey with dress construction, because I teach smocking as well. And the way, so it's really it's a win for me as well as for them as well.
So you get a lot of joy out of seeing people progress in their journey with embroidery.
Yeah, absolutely, and keep going and try and encourage them to keep going. And that's why we have classes every week.
Yes.
So that you don't lose them in between. We keep them going and we're a support network for them to learn. And there's 10 classes a week and they shop and there's 4 of us that teach there. So we all support each other. Which is great.
You love it. you love it.
I do. I am very passionate about it. Partly because it's really good, mental health too. Once you get past that first learning curve and find the value in it, and you start to have some success, it's like anything. If you start to have some success, you go, it's a bit like golf, really. If you start to have some success, you go, oh, I think I can do this. And because we're there every week, people who come and they start stitches, and if they have a frustration, they know they can come back the next week and get some more help and some more help and some more help. So that regularity is really important for a lot of the ladies.
And would you say that's the best way for a beginner to start if they're wanting to get into embroidery? To join, either go to a guild, because they offer a similar sort of thing as well. And they definitely have the basic, here we have the basics to beyond class. So you step 1, step 2, step 3, and there's support there with the ladies there, or a shop. You need a workshop, just walk in and ask, do you have classes? Not all of them do, but a lot of them do actually have classes. And I guess that's a big part of your journey as well, going to those classes early on that kept you
I still do classes. I just did one with Marie Talbot, and she's been teaching for 20 odd years, and she does beautiful, beautiful, fine work. But I had never done a class with her, and I thought, she was coming to Adelaide, and I went, I think I've got to do this, and I did, and it was great, and I learnt some tips and tricks off of her that I didn't know. So I'm always learning, and I think that's part of life, the journey and the inquisitiveness of it all, and you never know what's around the corner.
Did you think you'd be where you are today with embroidery and smocking and all that?
When I left school, I went teaching. I wanted to go to the country and be in the country and stay in the country and just, I didn't know where I'd be, sort of thing. But I did not think embroidery, because it was my sister and my mum that did the needlework, and I went off and did my own thing. And it's been a total about face. They don't even do anything now, and I do everything. But I suppose I'm a bit like my dad. My dad was always, he was a farmer, but he was a scientific farmer. He was somebody who did everything to the nth degree. Like he was an inventor, and he would always, he'd always reinvent the wheel. Every time he bought something, he'd try and make it bigger and better or whatever. And I think I'm a bit the same. I think if I start something, I do it. There's no half measures. It's full on. Golf, this, my kids, my family, all that sort of stuff and everything else. So, in fact, it was really funny. Somebody said to me, come on, let's go and learn bridge, play bridge. And I went, oh, yeah, I've got that. How to go out. And after about second class, I went, no, I've got to stop now, because I cannot have another addictive thing in my life.
That's good. You're self-aware. You're like, okay.
Limitations. Especially after being burnt out. you know,
Yeah.
earlier on.
Yeah.
I learnt very quickly that
And that's
if I do
easy.
something, I've got to be realistic with myself and pace myself because, you know, I've got other priorities and other stuff. I want to share what I'm doing because I love and I want to inspire other people to have a go. So that's why I do the halfway, you know, the process to go through. So make it achievable, make it think, oh, yeah, I think I can do that, you know. And I've just gone back to cross-stitch. I'm doing cross-stitch at the moment. Now, I started with cross-stitch, really, and tapestries, and I'm going back to it, and I'm loving it. And I'm loving it from the point of view that, A, I can choose colours and things like that, but it's just the same stitch the whole time, but it still is creative, but it's quite methodical and I can switch off a little bit, you know, sort of thing, and not have to think technical, just, you know, think where I place it sort of thing. And I found it quite relaxing, actually. I mean, admittedly, you've got to choose a project you like. You know, some people are into all sorts of samplers and modern stuff and things like that. I mean, I've just found some beautiful patterns that I quite like, and that's what I'm doing, you know, and I can pick that up and put that down. And that's the other thing about embroidery is you can pick it up and put it down, and you don't need a lot of space for it as well. So, but online stuff, yeah, I use my die crochet embroidery as my advertising tool, I suppose you could say. Just to say that I'm out there, and if you want to follow me, fine. If you don't, well, that's up to you. But to see what I do, you know, and see that there are other people out. So I do post the shop and the guild and things like that, so people can see that you can actually do this. You know, if you take a risk and have a go, there are places out there that can help you. And even online, a lot of the girls, you know, if they forget something when I teach it to them during the week, they'll go online to YouTube and things like that. But I don't feel the pressure that I have to have it out there, partly I think because I don't have a business either. I just do it as I want to do it, you know. I'm not trying to sell anything and make, you know, the money side of things. I'm doing it because I love it. And I'm very fortunate I'm in that situation that I'm doing it because I love it.
Like you said, sometimes when there's the pressure on it, you can like
lose the passion.
Yeah, where you've found this nice like middle ground where you are doing it for work, but then it's also the passion is still there because it's not
the pressure.
Yeah.
It's a balancing act at times, I have to say. Because at the moment,
there's still things to do and get done and classes to do, but
And I think that's part of the reason why I've discovered cross stitch again, because I just want to stop for the designing and the technical side of things for a little while and just chill and, you know, just do that on the, because I've always got a needle and thread in my hand. Always, you know, in front of the television. I come home and I get dinner prepared and I might stitch for an hour before dinner. You know, there would not be a day where I don't have a needle and thread in my hand. Yeah, but most people who are like me are the same. You know, you can't, like, I know Alison Cole does the same. She stitches in the airport. I do the same. I stitch in the airport, you know, and stitch on a plane. And my husband gets really embarrassed and I say, sorry, honey, but it's happening. You get past that care factor, not care factor, but that worrying about what other people think type thing. And I've got maybe 20 years ago, I probably wouldn't have when I was younger, but now I'm older and I know what I do and I know I like what I do and you know, and I like to share the passion now. I mean, and I'm at that stage too, you know, sort of thing. So it doesn't worry me if, you know, it's interesting. It's interesting when you share it with the public. You know, you don't. Some are interested and some aren't. Fine. You know, so I get a lot of joy out of it. So, and I think the thing is about doing it and for your mental health as well. I think there's a little bit that came along the way that I did it for my mental health. You produce something. So a lot of people do fitness for mental health and that sort of thing, and that's fine, and you do, and you feel fit and you feel wonderful and everything else like that. But the beauty about doing embroidery or needlework or some sort of craft in general, or knitting or whatever, the joy is in the production of what you've produced, you know. And I think people who are starting out with embroidery or any sort of craft, if you get that support network along the way to start to get you going and get your confidence going, well, the world is your oyster if you really take to it. Yeah.
You invest that time into that skill, it will keep paying itself back.
1,000 times over and rewarding for you. So it's a win-win.
Yeah.
It's a win for you and it's a win for them as well. But I do notice that with embroidery too that, well, this is just embroidery in general, but I'm sure it's with sewing as well. You probably need that support network to get yourself up and going and build a few skills and confidence for you to be able to take it further, because you can hit those stumbling blocks very quickly and it's all too hard, I'll throw it away. You know, it's a bit like sport too. You know, it's the same sort of thing. In those early days, if you can get it in the early days and very raw and give that right positive attitude and encouragement and all that sort of thing, you're going to have a lot more success.
So it's
Yeah.
really getting part of a community.
Yeah. Like I said,
totally.
Create and Stitch has been going for 10 years now, and some of those ladies I've been teaching for 8 years. In fact, some of them I knew from Country Bumpkin days. So it's been a really good journey, and keeping that going. And then, there's another couple of embroidery shops here in Adelaide as well that do the same thing. So, yeah.
I guess one of the questions we had, why is it important to preserve this art of embroidery and keep it going for the next
It's a dying art.
Yeah.
It's, so embroidery is something that started in the home, mostly in the home, and then it became, and also it was taken out of the home as production, and, I'm talking 16th, 17th, centuries ago, in the centuries. And it was done in mass production and things for clients and commission orders and factory, and you had the schools that taught, and the girls sat there 30 in a class learning how to do needle lace or bobbin lace or whatever. So there were the factories as well, but as Industrial Revolution started, it changed, and it went from these beautiful handmade things into machine made, and a lot of the arts were just bastardised, for want of a better word. And that's actually how the Royal School of Needlework started, because they recognised, one of Queen Victoria's daughters recognised that the gentle arts was being bastardised and ruined with these machines. And so she started that up, and for ladies to go to and learn embroidery and keep it going, okay, and make the fine arts for the wealthy clients. And another one that was during the famine in Ireland, the Irish lace started from the convents, and the wealthy estate owners' wives saw that there was no money coming in, and they got the women to learn how to do needle lace or bobbin lace. And the community, and they made it for the wealthy clients that they knew in Dublin or Belfast or London or whatever, or the merchants, and sold it. So it was a way of income for a lot of people, especially in small communities during times of toughness. But also, historically, for costumes, national costumes, like you go into Europe and you go the national costume of Norway, the national costume of Sweden, the national costume of Switzerland or Denmark or whatever, they have embroidery all over them. And nobody makes that anymore. Well, not en masse anymore. And it used to be part of a dowry too. So the costumes get passed on to the daughters, to the daughters, to the daughters, or whatever else. And that tradition is part of traditions. They're lost, So I think with the guilds and museums and all that sort of stuff, trying to learn and spread the word about traditional embroidery to keep the art alive. At our guild, we've got lots of lovely ladies from different nationalities who know so much embroidery and everything, and they'd love to share it, but nobody really knows about it, sort of thing. And we've got a beautiful museum there of historical embroideries that get donated from all countries of all the world. But even American embroidery, there's in the Native Americans, there's a lot of beading, that traditional beading that went on in the 18th century. And that's historical now, and traditional. The patterns they used, those patterns need to be documented and shared and preserved so that they're not lost. So that's why I like going to, this particular Ukrainian whitework one, I was asked by a Victorian guild to design something because the guild members wanted to learn about it and sort of thing, and there's not many people that do that sort of thing.
So it's really preserving it, and also connects us to history and tradition and things, which is I guess is still important.
So it's costumes, celebrations, traditional dances, and initially they used to have the dowry boxes, and so when a girl got married, her family would make all these cloths and embroideries and everything and fill up her box for when she got married, and that would go to her when she got married. Well, I mean, you don't do that anymore, sort of thing. Well, it does, but not handmade things as well. So that was, all those sort of things were are getting lost. And so that's for the museum at the Guild, we're trying to preserve those so that we can educate and learn from them and use them as examples to teach other people or study or whatever. And the V&A in England has got it, and there are lots of museums in every capital city that has some embroideries. If you go hunting in their catalogues, you'll find them. A lot of our embroidery here in Australia is influenced by Europe. but there is also the Asian influence as well. So, you know, you can go down and do a Chinese or Japanese silk. They do silk, the tamari. There's a lot of embroidery all through that. And that's just another journey. Not an area for me, but I do appreciate what goes on, you know, with that. And their education system of embroidery is so different and so structured. And there's a lovely lady called Margaret Lee here in Adelaide who teaches it all over the world. And she's just got an OAM in the last Australia Day ceremony. Yeah, for her contribution to embroidery.
Oh, that's
and she's here in Adelaide. And she's incredible. She's a teacher of Japanese and Chinese embroidery and beading. And to become a teacher, you have to do 12 levels of embroidery, and it's quite structured, but she now teaches it to other people, and it's got quite a following.
Even for us, this is kind of like the mission to, I guess,
spread it
is to go, okay, we got these skills, let's just somehow make people be aware of sewing. But
sewing, embroidery, textiles.
Textile art.
If you don't, it's like, it's going to be gone. There's nothing in the shop for me to buy. Well, why? It's because you can't make your own clothing. And so how can we bring it back to this thing?
And I think you're right too, with the change in environmental issues and environmentally friendly and ergonomic and all that sort of stuff. I think there is a shift, and you would notice that with your focus is, you know, very much natural products and natural, you know, that sort of thing, which I think is fantastic because, and recycling is another thing too, you know, so learning a craft to be able to use that is part of it. And I think with your generation, the younger, it's becoming more and more, and you'll be able to facilitate that for the next generation as well.
And that's what I've always thought, or have always said, that when you learn to make your own clothes, you never look at clothing the same way.
Oh, no.
So it's kind of that same thing with embroidery. When you slow down and you actually put time and effort into these things, naturally you'll never be able to, you know, like that, look at it the same way. It's realising how is
machine made,
cost.
handmade.
Yeah, how are people, you know, making things for that cost? There's someone's hands are still making those, and I know machines and production lines, but still, I think understanding that yourself, when you make it, you can, like you have this revelation in yourself and this conviction that, you know, you become a more mindful, I guess, consumer. Because you make things as well.
And you know, and you choose probably good stuff too, like good fabrics and good things, not the plastic. Rayons, polyesters, all that sort of stuff. And you make much more of a conscious decision because you're educated. It's education is the key. It's like in anything, you know, to make a decision, you need to be educated in what you're making a decision on. And it's what makes the world go around, you know. And I think now I always touch fabrics when I go to buy them. Always. I can't buy online. And you'd be the same sort of thing. So I try and do natural fabrics as much as possible.
Same. I think that's kind of, I guess, our angle of the way of like this, you know, fast fashion problem and things. It's like our version is like get people into sewing, get people into embroidery, into making, because that naturally will have the change in themselves, which will change their consumer decisions.
So my big thing is mental health. It's a great thing if we could channel it down mental health avenue. I think you'll find that it'll be like this lady, she's a psychologist. So she brings 3 clients with her and they laugh, you know, and so she has opened up the world of embroidery to these women, and the mental health that they get out of it and the satisfaction they get out of it is fantastic. So that's another avenue that you guys could think about, you know, with craft and art. Is the mental health aspect of it.
It slows you down. It's like you know, you've got to be present in the moment of like creating what you're making instead of, and I think there's a thing to be said about something that, you know, you can find pride in making compared to, you know, just buying or consuming. When you've made this piece, it's like that gives you pride and like I think that's part of it as well, but also the process of making it and the community aspect as well. So all those elements is, you know, what helps.
It helps your body and soul. Exactly.
So there's so much more to it than just, needlework, or there's
picking up a needle and thread.
Yeah.
It's the stuff that goes on around it
Yeah.
that makes it all happen and be successful. That you, like the support network.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's the crucial part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you start small with it. It's cross stitch, something really simple. I mean, you might want to go on the knitting or the crochet journey. I mean, they're the other things that a lot of young women or people, not just women, men do too. It's finding your thing, dabbling and different. And I did dabble in other things. I did decoupage and I chatted with ceramics and things. But I just found embroidery was really good because you can pick it up and put it down. And you don't need a lot of messy glues or whatever. You just need a little space, like a basket or a box or something. And you can throw everything in there and just shut when I was doing commission orders, I think I mentioned to you before, I had the ironing board. So because you can lift it up and lift it down, I used to have crawling around under my feet and I had the ironing board up and I would stand and do my bits and pieces on that. And then, if it got too much, I just put it into the laundry, dragged it into the laundry and shut the door. And then when I went to sleep, I'd bring it out and I'd bring it down to my seat and work on it. And that was my work table for a long time. But I could also pack that up and put it in a cupboard or whatever. And I could go and stitch in the car while I'm waiting to pick up a child from work or something like that. So there was a lot of good things about it. You don't need a lot of, if you're doing hand embroidery, you just need a needle, a thread and a project, sort of thing really. And you can have other things like hoops and lights and all that sort of thing, but that will come with time and experience. You really just need to start off small and simple. And making time, make it work for you. So I had a little basket with bits in it and I'd just take that with me wherever I went and if I had a free moment, I'd sit down and do it. But you have to want to do it. I think the whole thing is you've got to find something that you fall in love with and you want to make that time. So you can't wait to get food cooked and get the kids into bed so you can do your thing, And I think that drive comes through experimenting and finding out your little niches that you want to do. And there's so much variety of embroidery. So if you try one thing and you don't like it, you can try something else. I mean, there's applique. You can put, layers of fabric, which is hand paper piecing, which is like quilting and putting it together. You can get Liberty fabrics and put them together and make a little needle case or or felt and embellish and beads and all that. It's still embroidery because you're using a needle and thread, and so you either go traditional or contemporary or whatever, but just keep it small to start with and achievable. And like I said before, finding a network of support. So if you can't do it on your own, go to a class, enroll in a class, a nighttime class or a daytime class. Have a go, join a guild, join a shop, join a whatever, because they are a support network no matter what, because that's what they do for embroidery.
Yeah, that's good.
Books, a couple of those, and then the whole collection of Inspirations magazine right up to 125.
Two actually are from photos. So you have your photo and you have to put it in.
Wouldn't Joan look lovely in that?
Yeah. How do you go smocking checks?
So you have to have the line, see that?
Yeah.
Yes, so when you put it through, especially with the bishop, you make sure them all go round. Dominant stripes go that way, not that way. If they went that way,
Yeah, I see what you mean, like they would...
You get a water wave. That was fine because it's an all over floral pattern and it's nice and soft. So I kept the smocking soft with the fabric.
How long did that take?
How many rows? Probably about 10 hours.
Cable stitch, yeah. I mean, it even looks so effective just with the calico.
It'd be lovely on a garment with different colours or just a contrasting colour.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Some of these are from other designers in the magazines as well, but they're all different techniques. Counted needlepoint to crewel work, stump work, which is work that sits 3D, Mount Mellick, which is from Ireland, Norwegian hardanger, which is cut work and on white work there. This is just general surface embroidery with silk threads. That's one of my designs. It's in an Inspirations project. This one here is called Red Treasure Box, which is in Inspirations magazine, and it's got all the little needlework bits that go in it. And there's got it's a Japanese technique actually.
What would they use something like that for? It's just a decorative piece?
Yeah, and some of them are really complicated. That's really basic. All the embroidery on, and then you do the cut work. So some of the threads have been left behind and some have been cut away, and you weave them together.
How that works.
It's really pretty.
It's like, oh no, I've got halfway through my project and cut too many, and now I was lucky that you got that up.
Yeah. So everyone gets so paranoid and scared about when they first cut and everything else. I said, look, don't panic because you can fix it at the moment, but it's going to have a bit of reticella in it, a bit of schwarm in it, a bit of cut work.
Oh, wow.
You would have probably seen there somewhere. So the same design, as you can see, same design, but different stitches and colour. Hardly any stitches are the same in each one, which are these.
Ah, like the
snowflakes. These, I'm teaching these.
Ah.
That one. And
Are these your designs?
yes, yeah. And this one. There it is there. So this is the one they'll actually do because it's the beginner's one.
The best beginner stitch to start with is cross stitch.
Yeah. I hate to say it. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, it's cross stitch, but it just works out where it's all about handling a needle and thread and getting the cross and being a bit more disciplined and following a chart.
1800s, 1900s, kind of like samplers and cross stitch and things like I love.
Do you want to see a lovely sampler?
Yeah, I'd love to. Oh my goodness, that's so beautiful.
So this lady who designed this did the advanced certificate course in Elizabethan stitches.
What were they?
They were samplers, early samplers were practice pieces for girls to show what they could do for employers.
Oh, okay.
So when you look at a very early one, it has lots of different types of embroidery. It might have a bit of coloured embroidery on it, might have a bit of cut work, it might be a bit of lace, it might have a few motifs. It's got different types, especially the English ones, all different types of embroidery on it. That was their sample for their employment.
That was like their resume.
Yeah, and they practiced at home their skills because they wanted employment. And needlework was big. You know? And if you get employed by the master in the house or mistress in the house to do the needlework for the family or the garments or a dressmaker or a factory, for want of a better word, they need to be able to prove that they could do it, sort of thing. And that was their sample that they took with them to go. So if you were in Italy, you'd probably have a lot more lace and cut work and white on white. But if you were in England, you'd probably have more colour and if you were lucky enough to be with someone who taught you a bit of needle lace, you'd add it to it. So it kind of, it was your resume.
I always find I'm gravitating towards these old samplers, and I'm just like, but to know the history of that is just like,
you look at it a bit differently. And then the last one of your certificate is basic gold work. No colour.
So they give you the technique and you choose the design. Does it have to be an original design, or it's just like you just choose the project that has that technique?
No, it doesn't have to be original because you can see the Audrey Hepburn up there. It's not original. I took that from a photo.
Oh wow.
So then I moved into my diploma, and the very first one was my applique, and that actually is from a painting. So I made it into applique, so it was just a picture that I thought, I can put that into applique, I can see that happen. And then applique, and then I went in and I chose Audrey as my backwork piece, and I did that from a photo. And you learn a lot about shade and dark and light, and where light hits and all that sort of thing. So that was really good. And then after that, I did gold work with colour. And that is a picture I found the parts of that online, did the cut and paste and put it all together and worked out how I could add the colour in and that sort of thing. And then after that we had to do a fur feather or fins, and I chose my little baby kookaburra and I did that, and that's from a photo.
Wow.
So you have a photo, and those two actually are from photos. So you have your photo and you have to put it into thread.
Right.
So that you learn.
So do you also have to send these pieces off? So you have to send them to England and get
priority paid, insured, all of that. And hope that it gets there. Always a scary thing.